Hello and welcome to the Black Entrepreneur Blueprint Show. I am your host, Jay Jones. Black Entrepreneur Blueprint was created specifically to educate and inspire Black entrepreneurs to launch, build, and grow successful businesses. Join us as we help build an economic power base in the Black community by promoting business ownership. If you are currently an entrepreneur or want to be an entrepreneur, we invite you to join us every week here at Black Entrepreneur Blueprint. Welcome to the Black Entrepreneur Blueprint, episode number 255. I'm your host, Jay Jones, and today we have another dynamic and informative show in store for you. Today's show topic is 5 steps to build your ideal life. 5 steps to build your ideal life. But before we get to today's episode, I just want to share a few things with the BEB family. First and foremost, I want to welcome all new listeners to Black Entrepreneur Blueprint. Thank you for tuning in and welcome to the BEB family. Now, please stick around until the end of today's broadcast where I'll give you all of my social media contacts, and please connect with me via social media. Also, my new book is out, A New Black Wall Street, Circulating the Black Dollar Worldwide by Building Successful E-Commerce Businesses. So if you're looking to build a successful, sustainable e-commerce business, please go to A New Black Wall Street. Pick yourself up a copy. It's $14.95 plus shipping and handling. Now, for any of you who need additional assistance building your successful, sustainable e-commerce business, I've created a compatible online course titled Educated E-Commerce, which takes you from point A to point Z, and it holds your hand to help you build your successful, sustainable e-commerce business. You can enroll in that course at educatedecommerce.com, educatedecommerce.com. Now, for all of you Black product producers, I didn't forget about you guys. I've created a platform titled BeSmartByBlack.com, which enables Black product producers to connect with Black consumers worldwide to share their information and their products. We're talking about worldwide Black economy, guys, and circulating the dollar in the Black economy. So Be Smart by Black is free to upload your products, and this way you can connect with Black consumers worldwide. Now, for all you freelancers, anybody that does anything on freelancer.com or fiverr.com, I didn't forget about you either. Once again, go to hireblackfreelancers.com, HIRE, blackfreelancers.com. Upload your information and you can connect with Black businesses and Black consumers that are looking for freelancers. Circulating the dollar once again in the worldwide Black economy. Now, also, you guys know I do a speaking tour and I speak at colleges and do my book signing and book talks. So if you need to book me or you're interested in bringing me out for an organization, a church, any type of event, you can go to bookjjones.com and fill out the form and I'll get right back to you. Bookjjones.com, and you can just fill out the information and I'll get back to you and we'll see if we can make this happen. Now, on to today's show, 5 steps to build your ideal life. Now, I know it sounds kind of simplified that there's only 5 steps to build your ideal life, but actually the steps are simple, but completing the steps, bringing it to fruition, is where most people come into problems with. So today we're going to talk about those 5 steps. And one of the things I talk about a lot, we're always waiting for people to anoint us. Okay. You know, in order to be this, somebody has to anoint you to this position. You know, instead of just doing what we need to do to create that ourselves. So number one, and I just want to use myself as an example, not that I'm tooting my own horn because I'm a regular dude. Y'all know that. That's how I roll. But nobody crowned me Mr. Black Entrepreneur Blueprint. OK, that's something I created. That's something I built from a vision. Now, I didn't know what it was going to turn into, but I knew that I had a voice and I needed to get that out because there were other people just like me that were dealing with a lot of the same things in terms of building a successful business and being black while you're doing that. So there's certain intrinsic things that us black folk deal with that others don't when we start to build a business or become entrepreneurs. And another example is nobody gave me a book publishing deal for my book, A New Black Wall Street. I created that. I didn't wait for somebody to anoint me. I didn't wait for Random House to come over and say, hey, Jay, we want you to write a book. So I took the initiative and created it. Okay. Nobody was out there giving me speaking gigs. And I'm going to give you a real life example of a guy that actually was big into speaking years ago, and he was a nobody. So nobody gave me speaking gigs. I built that based on the work that I put in. Okay. So you want to stop waiting for people's validation, guys, and start doing what's necessary to build your ideal life. Now, just to give you an example of several people that have done that, Spike Lee, he wanted to be a director. He started his first film using his credit cards. Okay, I'm not recommending that. But he said, you know what? No major studio is going to hire me. I'm going to create and build this myself. And once he got his first film out, and then people saw his talent, then the studios came after him. But he didn't wait to get anointed. Everybody's talked about the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Most entrepreneurs have read that. So Robert Kiyosaki, who wrote that book, he actually wrote it and it was self-published at first. A lot of people don't know that. Then when the popularity started to become greater, then Random House, I think it was Random House or somebody picked up the book. And now you can't go anywhere without seeing Robert Kiyosaki's name, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and all the other books, accompanying books that he wrote. Once again, he didn't wait for a publishing house to give him the okay and anoint him the next big publisher or writer. So he did that himself. So in a nutshell, guys, what I'm saying is you have to be accountable for your lot in life. You have to make sure and make the moves that are going to put you in the position that you want to be in your business and your life. And today we're just going to talk about 5 steps to build your ideal life. Now, today's show isn't going to be too long, but we're going to get right to the point. And step number 1 is determine what you want to create. What's your vision? Many times we always are doing busy work, but I tell you guys all the time, you need to take time to really think. I take at least several hours each week just to think. I don't have anything on my docket. I shut my phones off and I think. And the reason I do that is because I get clarity without distraction. Step number 1, determine what you want to create. What does your ideal life look like? What does your ideal business look like? Are you going to create a business that's conducive to your lifestyle? Is it going to be an e-commerce business? Is it going to be a brick and mortar business? What type of business do you want to create? Determine what you want to create in your life and your business. It sounds simple, but it takes a lot of thought, deep thought. That's step number 1. Step number 2, formulate a plan to attain your goal. Write it down. Now, if you could see my office right now, I have tons of notebooks. I got notebooks in different bags. I got notebooks in boxes. I've got notebooks from 20 years ago because I write everything down. And I know, I put it on a computer too. But sometimes when you write things, you have a better tendency to remember them because you have to physically write them. So formulate a plan to attain your goal. Okay. So with Black Entrepreneur Blueprint, I didn't know how large it was going to be, but I knew that I had a voice and I had a message that I had to get out there. And so I had to figure out what my platform was and get the message out there. So formulate a plan to attain your goal. Write it down. Step number 3, validate yourself. And this is what I talked about when we opened the show. Don't wait for anybody else to validate you. Because if you do, you're going to be in the same place you are today as you were 10 years ago. You have to validate yourself. Okay. Once again, nobody said, hey, you're going to be Mr. Black Entrepreneur Blueprint, the podcast host. I created that. So whatever your vision is, you need to validate yourself. Now, I'm going to give you a tip, though. Don't try to validate yourself on something that you're not. Okay. It took me a lot of years, a lot of mistakes, a lot of setbacks, a lot of failures to be able to be proficient talking about entrepreneurships, the ups, the downs, and everything. So I always talk about speaking from experience. And that's what I call know-how. And any of you who've listened to the show for any period of time, I know you're tired of hearing it, but for any first-time listeners, let me give you the definition of know-how. Everybody talks about knowledge is power. Yes, you do need knowledge, but know-how is the act of doing. So I can attain knowledge on many ways. So if I want to fly an F-15 fighter jet, I can sit down, I can read the manual, right? That's knowledge. I can watch a video, right? Oh, you pull the stick up, the plane goes up. You pull the stick down, the plane goes down. Turn it this way, yada, yada, yada. That's knowledge. Now, but if you put me in the cockpit of that F-15 fighter jet and said, do you know how to fly this? The answer is what? No. Know-how comes from doing. So entrepreneurship is a contact sport, guys. You can't be in entrepreneurship on the sidelines. The only way you get proficient at something is by doing. Okay, so validate yourself. But when you validate yourself, make sure what you validate is true. It's your truism. So people can see through fraud. They can see through phony people that are talking about things that they've never done. So step number 3, validate yourself. Step number 4, create a mechanism to get whatever it is you need to get or you need to attain. For example, your platform. My initial platform is my podcast. How do you market that? Okay. And also, how do you position yourself, your business, and or your product or service? So you need to create a mechanism to get what you want to attain. So in my example, the podcast that's my keystone. Everything flows from the podcast. Yours could be a blog site. It could be a YouTube video or a series of videos, a YouTube channel. It could be via Instagram or any other social media. So create a mechanism to get what you want. It's not about, once again, just the platform or the marketing or the positioning. It's everything. And step number 5 is be that. And I know those 2 simple words, but be that. So in order to be that, you have to do that. Be that takes action. So do that. And I had a conversation today with a good friend of mine who is looking to make that transition and build her own brand. And we were going through some of the steps and some of the things that she needed to do before she left corporate America. Okay. So when I talk about be that, you have to do that to be that. So I was giving her several things that she needed to do so she could be. For example, before you transition out, you're going to need to build up a database, an email database. So whatever you sell or however you monetize, you need to be able to monetize it to somebody. So a lot of people get this backwards. So they'll write a book and then they'll try to find their market. So they spend all of this time writing a book. And then when the book is done, they don't have anybody to market the book to. That's backwards. So what I recommended to her was create content first. Build up a database. Build up a social media following. And then when you're ready to release your product and or service, which solves a problem, now you have somebody or a group to release it to where you can monetize it. So step number 5, be that. But in order to be that, you have to do that. So a lot of times we want things without putting in the work. And we also are short-sighted many times and thinking that, we need instant gratification. Sometimes it happens, but most times it doesn't. It doesn't. So it's an anomaly if something happens that fast. You guys know I'm on episode 255 of the podcast, 4.5. It'll be 5 years. Actually in September, it'll be 5 years. And when I started the podcast, I had no idea what it was going to turn into. But I knew it was my truth. And I knew it was a message that I needed to get out. So a lot of times you're not going to understand what you create until it's created. And today we're talking about 5 steps to build your ideal life. Short show today, guys. Short show today. I got a lot going on. But I think that it's really important for us to understand that whatever it is that we want to accomplish, there's steps to anything. You want to get in shape, there's steps to that. Okay? You want to become a better basketball player, there's steps to that. So there's always steps to something. And I think that what we have to understand is that, number one, it's attainable. Had a conversation with my youngest daughter a couple days ago, and she's home for the summer. And my wife and I were cracking up because she has a job starting, I think, in June, middle of June, which is like a 7 to 4 job, whatever, 7 a.m. to 4 p.m., Monday through Thursday, which is perfect for a young kid because they like to hang out on the weekends. So prior to this job starting, she's doing some serving at a restaurant. And so she's making decent tip money, but it's the hours. Oh, Dad, I got to work this day, that day, and the other day. My wife and I are cracking up. We're laughing at her because, she's like, I can't stand, doing this work. And basically, that's the whole problem with 99.9% of the people out there is they don't necessarily like what they do for work, but they do it because they don't know what the alternatives are. So living the life and building the ideal life is attainable if you know how to get to that point. And that's why I always talk about pinpoint and monetize your genius. So you have to realize, number one, it is attainable. So yes, go for it. A lot of people think it's not attainable because they lack the information to get them to that point. I say this a lot. Your ignorance is somebody else's business. And when I say ignorance, I mean the lack of knowing, not knowing. So your ignorance is somebody else's big business. So things that you don't know or things that you don't or can't do is big business. And there's nothing wrong with that because you're not going to know everything and you're not going to be able to do everything. So for a lot of my technical stuff, like I can build WordPress sites and all of that. But if I'm looking to build something a little bigger and robust, my ignorance is big business to somebody else because I'm going to have to pay them to do that. So you always want to continue to learn. And you also want to understand that that ideal life is there. So some people think it's not even available to them, but it's there. And this is really what today's show is about to get you guys to think and understand that you can have it all. Yes, life happens. Things happen. You guys know my story with losing my son, almost losing everything 2 times, as an entrepreneur. Things happen. That's called life. But if you continue to press forward with a plan, with ideas, testing out, making sure what you want to do is feasible, you're able to do it, then keep pushing forward. So we're talking about 5 steps how to build your ideal life. Number 1, determine what you want to create. Sit down, take the time, 2-3 hours a week to think. And I know you may be saying to yourself, man, I don't have 2 to 3 hours to think. Yeah, you do. Cut off the TV, stop watching a couple of your shows, put down the PlayStation, whatever. Take 2 or 3 hours a week to think. Isolate yourself. Sit down, think with a notepad, and start to determine what you want to create. What type of life you want to create. Once again, guys, I do that at least once a week. Just think. Step 2, formulate a plan to attain your goal. Write it down. Write it down in a simple format. It doesn't have to be like a big plan, like a business plan. Just write it down. Keep it simple. Step 3, validate yourself. Don't wait for validation. And I think this is probably one of the biggest steps is validate yourself. Nobody needs to validate you. As long as you have the goods, you can back up where you want to be in terms of experience, know-how, validate yourself. Okay, if I was waiting for somebody to validate me, I wouldn't be validating. I had to validate myself. And then when I get out there, based on my experience and my know-how, the validation is proven. Oh, and that's what I wanted to say too. There's a magazine it's still out now, but it's changed in format. It used to be called Success Magazine. And back in the early 2000s, there was a gentleman that was a public speaker, but nobody knew who this guy was. So what he did was he started creating these seminars that were they weren't really free, but they were like $9. And you could go, he would go to all the major cities, and he'd have like top guests like Zig Ziglar, Tony Robbins, Les Brown, and he'd have all of these people on one show, and it would be at large. It was at the Wells Fargo Center in Philly, which holds 20,000 people. He'd have them in these large auditoriums, and he'd only charge like $9 per person. So he would advertise in the paper. He would send stuff out to corporations. It was talking about motivation, productivity, and all types of stuff. And so people would come to the event for all the headliners. But the crazy thing was, when you got there, he was the headliner. He was the last person on the stage, and nobody knew this guy. And I can't even remember his name today. But he used to go all the way around, all over the country, and do these live seminars. And it was called like Success Seminars or something like that. And by the time it was over, after several years, he became a key public speaker. Nobody knew him, but he created the vehicle that would basically validate himself. So now he's on the bill with Les Brown, Zig Ziglar, Tony Robbins, all of these other, Deepak Chopra, all of these other high known or high impact speakers. And now he's a part of that. So now he's positioned himself and validated himself as a top speaker. And I'll be quite honest, he was horrible. Okay. Now, I don't know if when I saw him, if he was just starting out, but he was, out of all the speakers there, he was absolutely the worst one. But once again, he was matched up against experienced, speakers with a lot of track record that had been in the game for years after year after year. So, but he validated himself and he propelled himself to where he wanted to be. Long story short, validate yourself. Step 4, create a mechanism to get it. Once again, using that same example, he created that mechanism with this seminar series. That was the mechanism or the platform that he used to market himself and position himself. He didn't wait for anybody. And be that. And he did it. Be that. In order to be that, you have to do that. And that's exactly what he did. Is action behind being that. And that's called doing that. So he did it. So I can't knock his hustle. And once again, I can't even remember this cat's name. But back 10 years ago, he was real big. Success Seminars. And if you Google it, you probably can find the guy that ran the Success Seminars. But he made a ton of money from public speaking and that notoriety. He wrote several books after that, and he positioned himself as an expert. So that's today's show, guys. It was a short one. I think we're about 23 minutes in. But 5 steps to build your ideal life. It's out there. If you know how to get to it, always continue to educate yourself on different ways to build businesses, to build your life. One of the things that we have to stop thinking, we have to stop having limited beliefs in ourselves. You start listening to the wrong people. And a lot of times that can be the people that are closest to you that don't understand what your goals or aspirations are. You see, people limit themselves, and people who don't have an open mind, when you converse with them and tell them your goals, they're not going to necessarily say, oh man, that's crazy, because they don't want you to succeed. They may not believe that it's attainable. So always surround yourself with like-minded people. And I know as entrepreneurs, guys, we think a little bit differently. So it's always great to be able to have a network of entrepreneur friends or people that you bounce things off of, because we're in a game out there with no tightrope. Okay, so we're out there, no paycheck every week, and we're out there doing and creating and building. So always surround yourself with like-minded people, because if you don't, you're going to get that doubt. It's going to creep back into your mind, and you're going to start doubting yourself, your ideas, your plans, and then you're going to go backwards. So you always need to elevate. Now, before we close on out, guys, I say this each and every week, and I mean it every week. We have more and more downloads, and that's attributed to the BEB family. Please continue to spread the word. Also, please go on iTunes and Stitcher and leave 5-star reviews. I greatly appreciate that. It'll increase the visibility of the show, And we want to get this good word out there to as many brothers and sisters as we can worldwide. We're downloaded in so many countries right now, I can't even count. I'll count next time, but it's over 100 plus countries that we're downloaded in. And once again, that's attributed all to the BEB family. So please spread the word, by whatever means necessary, word of mouth, social media, smoke signals, whatever you got to do. Please spread the word. Now, if you need to connect with me, anything long, hit me on my email, jjones@blackentrepreneurblueprint.com, jjones@blackentrepreneurblueprint.com. Facebook, go to Black Entrepreneur Blueprint. Go ahead and like the page. Twitter, jjones001, JAYJONES001. Instagram, jjones4real, JAYJONES 4 REAL. YouTube, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. I have additional content that's not on the podcast. Yes, the podcast does get uploaded to YouTube, but I have additional content on YouTube. So please go to YouTube, type in Black Entrepreneur Blueprint, and hit subscribe. LinkedIn, you can find me, Jay Jones, Black Entrepreneur Blueprint. Also, once again, if you want to book me for any events, speaking at churches, schools, organizations, colleges, or whatever, or for my book tour, go to bookjjones.com and fill out the form. And last and especially not least, to be included in the BEB text line for notifications and reminders about special events, text BEB to 555-888. BEB to 555-888. Now, before I do close out, guys, there's always reasons why people don't move forward in trying to build the ideal life. The biggest one I hear is, the time isn't right. Let me explain something to you. The time is never going to be right. The stars are never going to align perfectly for you to move toward whatever your ideal life is going to be. So recognize and understand that right now. I need more money to do it. That's probably always going to be an issue unless you come into a windfall or you plan properly. And when I say plan properly, a lot of times people transition from employee to entrepreneur and they do it over a period of time. They may start your business part-time, keep saving your money. You may have a year of expenses saved up, 6 months or whatever, and then you can transition into entrepreneurship. So most people, it's hard to do that because we don't have that excess of money. Some people do, some people don't. And there's all types of excuses I've heard. Oh, my shoes were too big. What does that have to do with anything? If you want to do something, you're going to do it. All right. So if you're serious about building that ideal life, start out with these 5 steps. And I know this is just a framework, but it'll at least start you thinking to how you can move from where you are to where you want to be. It's attainable, guys. That's today's show. I'll see you guys same time next week. Love you guys. Peace.